Hi, can you state your name and title?
Okay, Fred Humphrey, I'm the senior Army instructor here at Nokomis Regional High School. Teach the ROTC, retired colonel.
When were you born?
January 26, 1951.
So, how old were you when JFK was assassinated?
I was in the 6th grade, so I would have been 11, 12 years old.
So, even being 11, how did that, like, what effects did you notice?
Well, I know the teacher, we happened to be in a history class, I remember that day, and they actually canceled school, sent us home. We didn't have school for the next 2 days.
2 days?
Yeah.
And, did you, like, how was your family affected by that?
Because everybody was concerned. We didn't know what was going to happen. You know, if there was going to be a war, or we didn't know how come he got killed, or anything like that. So there was a lot of concern, a lot of apprehension by everybody. So.
Yeah. So, what do you remember of the Watergate, the Nixon scandal?
Not really a whole lot. I know it was hitting the news quite heavy, and of course, President Nixon, once he got caught up in it, he ended up resigning from the presidency. So that was a trying time too. So.
Yeah. How old were you when you joined the Army?
I was 20.
20?
Yeah.
So, what experiences did you gain from that?
Oh, a lot of management training, a lot of teamwork training. I was actually trained as a survey NCO. Did artillery survey for probably 6 years, and then became a fire direction person, went to OCS, and spent most of my commission time in the artillery.
Yeah. So, being in the military, how do you think that affected, like, how do you think you experienced the different, like, major wars and stuff like that?
Well, there weren't, the time that I was, there weren't any major wars going on.
Okay.
Because we came out of, I joined right at the end of Vietnam, and there was nothing happened. When the first Gulf War happened in 1990, because I was full-time, and then they didn't activate my unit, so I actually didn't end up going to any of the major conflicts.
Okay, so what did you think of the Jackson State shootings? The Kent State and Jackson State?
Oh, again, Kent State was a lot of, during the Vietnam era, there were a lot of protests going on and things because the Vietnam War was a very unpopular war. We had 500,000 soldiers in Vietnam, and it was just not very popular. It was going nowhere, and the shooting that happened at Kent State was unfortunate. Of course, there were guardsmen that ended up shooting the 4 students, and that actually changed the whole way that we looked at protests and things. I know that I was a college student then, and when I went to basic training, they gave us training on crowd control and things, and we weren't allowed to have, like live ammunition and things. It was all batons and stuff like that.
So, what was your view when 18-year-olds were able to vote?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
I think 18-year-olds should vote. I mean, 18-year-olds can be, at the time, could be drafted. And today, 18-year-olds, they're in the military, and I think it's that they should be allowed to vote. It's a big voting group.
Yeah. Do you remember what age you were when they landed on the moon first time?
Yep, I was a senior in high school in 1969. I actually graduated that June, and they landed on the moon in July. So I was 18.
Yeah. And what about when Elvis died?
Elvis, I was actually, it was I think it was 77, and I was actually in training. We were at CFB Gagetown in Canada. We were doing artillery firing when the news came out, and it happened. I think it was in August when he died. He overdosed and died.
Yeah. Did anyone did anyone cry from that or get really upset?
No, nobody I knew.
Yeah. Good. So the 3 Mile Island, the nuclear reactor thing. What did you Did that change your views on nuclear power?
No. I still think nuclear power is safe. It's just, it's like anything. In Chernobyl, when the accident happened in Chernobyl, that was because it was poorly built. And I think nuclear power is one of the options that we have to look at. And I think it's a safe form of power. So.
Do you remember anything about the Challenger incident?
Yep, we were actually at work, and the supervisor, the colonel that was the major at the time, told us that something had happened. So we watched it. We watched it on TV at work. That was pretty devastating.
Yeah. The Cold War. How old were you with the Cold War?
Well, I grew up during the Cold War, and that was actually a big part of my training. We actually occupied positions in what they call the GDP, which is the defensive plan of Europe. And my unit actually went 3-4 times and occupied positions along the Fulda Gap in Germany. And that's what we trained for, was the big battle that was going to happen when the Warsaw Pact nation decided they were going to attack NATO. So we trained for that all the time during the Cold War. I participated in 2 reforgers. Reforger is a huge exercise. They bring at the time they brought all the forces together to Europe to train on repelling a Warsaw Pact attack.
Yeah. So how did you feel when the Berlin Wall fell?
Good. I think it was inevitable. You could see the direction that the Soviet Union was going in as far as being able to take care of the people and things. And it was inevitable it was going to happen.
Yeah. So do you have any certain views on the Russians and anything right now?
No, they have their philosophy and ideology on things, and it doesn't necessarily agree with ours, because it's a communist country, a socialist country, I should say. I don't know, they're not as strong communist as they used to be. I think they lean more towards a democratic socialist type organization now than they were as a communist. Not like China, and even China's turning that corner. So.
Yeah. So you were in the military during the World War II?
Oh,
no, that was
come on,
way
Matt.
before.
Gee,
I got confused.
World War II was 41 to 45. I wasn't even born then.
Okay. 9/11.
Yep.
How do you feel about?
I was at work that day, and we got a call from our headquarters that something was happening. And again, we actually saw the second plane hit the tower, and then everything went on lockdown. We locked everything down, and of course, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know how we had to pull things together. If there was going to be they didn't know if there were other attacks that were going to happen across the country or whatever. Everything got grounded.
Yeah.
All the armories and things were closed and locked up. So.
Yeah. So a lot of people focus on the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Is there anything especially important about the plane that hit the Pentagon?
Well, the Al Qaeda people that coordinated and planned and conducted the attack, they're not stupid people. So they knew what they were doing, and they wanted to make a statement, and they certainly did. I don't know as they really, knew that the towers were going to actually collapse. I think that happened, obviously. obviously it was a lot more devastating than I thought it was going to be. But I think, the fact that they lost that plane in Pennsylvania, that one was going somewhere. Whether it was the White House or the Capitol or whatever, it was going somewhere. So.
Yeah. So what do you think would have happened, like more like severe reactions from the American military if the planes, like more planes had hit, like?
I think the reaction was as strong as it needed to be, and I think I'm relatively confident thinking that the intelligence was there, and I think a lot of the problem was we didn't react to it in the right way, and I think that was kind of like, obviously the straw that broke the camel's back, and we reacted the way I think we had to react, because I think they saw that as a successful attack, and I think that if we hadn't have gone into Afghanistan and even Iraq, as controversial as that is, I think there would have been more attacks. I really do.
So when you got out of the military, was that before anything? Like right before?
I got out in 2003.
2000.
I retired in 2003.
Yeah. So, what are your views now on like what's been happening in like Egypt and Libya?
I don't agree with us doing what we're doing in Libya, because there's no strategic interest for us there. I think, 6 of one, half dozen of another, whatever you read, but I think that whether we like it or not, the longer we stay involved in that, the more protracted the war is going to be, and we're going to end up in, basically fighting a third war, and I don't think that we should be doing that. I mean, I understand humanitarian views of things, but I mean, there are issues in that regard all over the world, and I don't, strategically, politically, I think it was the wrong thing to do.
Do you think Afghanistan was the right thing?
I think that was, we had no choice in that, because that's where the attackers came from.
Yeah.
The camps were set up, the training camps, and they'd been training terrorists for a lot of years in Afghanistan. They trained terrorists in Iraq. As far back as the late 50s, they were training terrorists. So I think we had no choice to do what we did in Afghanistan. Now, at this point in time, I don't know that we're really gaining a heck of a lot out of it anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's costing us more than we're gaining from staying in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Do you think, were you glad when they got Saddam? Right?
Saddam Hussein?
Yeah.
You can, again, that's one of those that you can look at both sides and say we either should have or shouldn't have. I think a lot of what happened, and the entire intelligence community thought that, the reason that we supposedly went into Iraq was because of WMD and weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
And I believe that Saddam Hussein was playing a game because he wanted to be. I mean, he already had gotten thrown out of Kuwait when they attacked Kuwait. I think the elder George Bush made the right choice by not going into Baghdad. I think he was savvy enough on the intel side to understand that to go into Baghdad and take Hussein out, then we were stuck with a lot bigger problem. However, intelligence being what it was then, thinking that Saddam Hussein had those types of weapons, the decision was made to invade Iraq. I think a lot of it was posturing by Saddam Hussein because he didn't want to look weak in the area. He just came off of a huge war with Iran, and hundreds of thousands of people being killed, and I'm sure in his mind, if he looked weak, it might cause Iran to want to try to take over the country at that point. So I'm sure that was a big part of why we still thought that he had nuclear weapons or chemical weapons or whatever.
So how do you feel about Obama and his tactics to
politics are politics, you know. I don't necessarily agree with his political views on things, but he's, you know, he was elected. When 2012 comes around, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, as a military person, you know, military people have to support the commander in chief. I don't necessarily, of course I'm retired now, but I don't agree with his policies. I think we're spending way too much money, and, you know, we're gonna end up hurting for that later on, I think.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for the information.
Okay,
Okay.
bye.